Who knows what Jay-Z, J.K. Rowling, Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey all have in common? Okay, I will tell you then. They have all overcome failure in one shape or form to go on to gain success in their respective careers. Welcome to My Perfect Failure. Join us as we delve into the world of our perfect failures. We will interview, explore, and discuss how our perfect failures can lead us to success. Join us and tune in.
Welcome everybody to another episode of My Perfect Failure. Today, I am super excited because we have an amazing guest for you. So my guest today has a deep curiosity for understanding the human mind. Initially trained as a neuroscientist with a focus on time perception, her journey took an unexpected turn. Guided by her passion for storytelling, she explored various career fields, including media, commerce, healthcare, and fintech. Currently, she works as a data scientist in MoneyLion, a US fintech company. In this role, she connects people and businesses by building a recommendation engine that serves personalized financial content, empowering millions to make better financial decisions. Outside of work, she serves as a mentor and career coach, drawing from her personal experience and global innovation competitions. She finds joy in helping others discover their unique stories and ideas, guiding them towards a more fulfilling life. Her curiosity has led her to places, but not all without puddles and dead ends, leading her to embrace the unknown and grow personally. So a very, very warm welcome to My Perfect Failure, Hui Wen Chong. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Paul. Nice to meet you.
I am excited to have this conversation because we've just connected. So just to tell everybody, so I think somebody that I'm connected with on LinkedIn, and we've had lovely discussions. I think he posted something that you may have posted on LinkedIn. I captured it in my feed and I was like, wow, I love this. I love the content. So I reached out to you on LinkedIn. And you didn't ignore you kindly. I think I probably added you on LinkedIn and you kind of with a message and you accepted, which was amazing. And then we had a lovely discussion. Yeah. Then we ended up having a kind of like a lovely discussion, kind of like what we're going to have today.
Yeah.
And what I particularly loved is that we're kind of in the same place in terms of how we look at this subject. And I think the opportunity that embracing difficult moments can actually provide. So I was extremely delighted when you said, yes, I don't mind coming on your show, let's do it. And we've had lovely exchanges since on email and this. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I think it's really an accident that, I was just writing about how I went to this concert by a huge composer that I love, Joe Hisaishi. And what happened was that, he made a mistake in his concert, and the story just went from there with you, Paul.
Yeah. So, and thank you, because you've done a lot of research, as I have done for this particular episode. And the subject we're going to be talking about today is embracing uncertainty, the journey within. And I love the subject because uncertainty is always there and it's always kind of within. And I think we have different, we're not trained to deal with uncertainty or embrace uncertainty and how to understand to deal with it from within. We just have to kind of make it up as we go along in life. Our parents don't really, I think maybe some parents do, I don't know. I can't speak for every parent, but I'm going to kind of make a bold statement, but I would say the majority potentially don't teach their kids this, and maybe the majority weren't taught by their own parents. And then again, another bold statement, I don't think it's really, we get it at school, college, university, and then we kind of have to muddle through it. And it's like some of us cope very well with it, and I think there's a proportion of us that may struggle with it. And I certainly think that I have over the years struggled with embracing uncertainty and how to deal with that. So thank you for choosing a lovely subject. Before we get into that, what I'd like to do is capture a little bit of you. So maybe you can tell us, just a little bit about you and where you're based.
Yeah, so I'm based in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and I can perhaps give a snapshot of my sort of not very long journey so far. Yeah, so I think Paul gave a really lovely introduction about where I started off as a neuroscientist, where, and I like to share this in bits, like from where I did a degree, master's, and up to where I work and where I am today. Yeah. So trained as a neuroscientist, and I've always loved how, we humans think about things, not just psychologically, but what exactly is the science going behind. So as I was doing like my degree and master's, going through the field deeper, I did notice that there is a gap which I couldn't really explain at the time, of something that's missing, but I don't quite know, right? So what that happens was that I had to, really take a step back and think about what is it that the human mind that I like, yeah, apart from the science. So from there, there was a really long period of not knowing how to proceed, because in the society that I grew up in, we had a very high expectation as to what we need to become. So in my household, there is a level of expectation, hoping for myself to become like a healthcare professional. Since I like the human mind, it was quite logical to think I should be a doctor, among others. And master's at the time for me was like a resolution towards getting a PhD, a doctorate in compensation of the doctor, which I did not become. Yeah. So what happened then was...
Sorry, did you say you did become or you didn't become?
I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't.
okay.
Yeah. So so I think that there was this hazy period at that time where I was really stuck, that I know there is something about academia, about doctorate that didn't quite align with me. But I didn't know how to proceed without, not disappointing the people around me. Yeah. And what happened was there was a chance that came upon, and that chance was to fully experience the different aspects of business in terms of like a business camp. Yeah, it was a 2 weeks program where we did a lot of business simulations, and that was where I was introduced to different areas like strategy, marketing, etc. And that experience brought me to another place. And it was a hackathon in Accenture, UK. And out of no experience in tech at all, our team won as the first place.
Really?
So it
Amazing.
was very weird because none of us in the team had any tech experience.
Yeah.
And at the time, what we were hoping to solve was the issue of underprivileged kids not getting the mentoring support that they need.
Yeah.
So we came up with this idea about using AI to pair people up, especially from the underprivileged community, with the more professional group of people who are looking to contribute.
Can I ask just a quick question? Can I just interject? Yeah. Hackathon, what does that mean? If it does have a meaning.
Yeah, it does. So hackathon, they are usually quite like a short burst of event. Sometimes it can be 24 hours where we are paired up with strangers, or you can pair up with your friends. And the long story short is that out of this hackathon, we are looking to solve a real world problem in a very short time. Yeah, using technology or using whatever tools that we had. So at the time, the theme was about greater good from Accenture UK, and it was actually a global hackathon at the time. And so we just paired up in a small team, and we pitched, and then we won as the first place in London. And it was very eye-opening to me because it was the first time that I saw that my ideas or my passion in people can come in different ways to help solve real problems.
Okay, amazing. And so you're on hackathons. I just want to explore this a little bit more. So amazingly, you won first place. So clearly you've got an agile mind and the ability to be creative and come up with ideas. And when you came up with the idea, was that something that was it nurtured, or was it used after, or was it really the opportunity to kind of fuse people together and to get them to think creatively and potentially come up with ideas that you did, and it wasn't, and was it not something that they wanted to push then on after? Was it just really the idea of getting wonderful people together from diverse places and just watching the energy and the creativity fuse together?
Yeah, it was exactly that. I think it was a really a good blend of different energies coming from total strangers and coming from really different backgrounds. We had like mechanical engineers and design, and for myself as a neuroscientist. But I think deep down, within the very short time, it really forces us to focus on what is the pain that many people are facing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, possibly give you that empathy that gives us that perspective when we look at our own challenges, that maybe there are people that we don't know in different parts of the world that have got their own challenges that may make ours seem slightly smaller than they are. I know everything's relative, but it gives us that compassion.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because I think regardless of what profession or what areas that we are in right now, including those who are listening to right now, I think there are some core elements in us that are shared, whether it's happiness or pain or lessons.
Yeah. So it sounds like that this event came up randomly. It came up. You took the opportunity to embrace it and engage it, but it sounds like something more profound happened to you as well. You won, but did it raise more questions, or did it point you in a direction that you maybe wanted to explore that wasn't on your radar prior?
Yeah, definitely. I think the reason why I stepped out of, because I sort of know something wasn't aligned to me in the area that I was training in, and just by this accident, it, like what you said, it opened up doors and possibilities, a lot of it, and it made me rethink about what I'm really interested in and what is the impact I can bring to the world with the very unique skill set that I have. Although at the time I didn't feel it was very unique to start with.
Yeah.
And I think so from that experience, it sort of affirmed that, maybe I could put academia aside and try to explore what's out there in the business world, maybe. And also from that experience, I noticed I could rally people around and choose storytelling. I could help people relate to things or see things in a way that they didn't before. So that was why, upon graduating, I entered the media industry, and in the largest media company in Malaysia. I was in a graduate program, and during that 2 years program, I was exposed to many different areas like commerce, content creation, a lot of very different areas of storytelling, and working with very different people.
Okay, yeah, it sounds fascinating. So you've got this lovely blend of different skill sets to kind of embrace, understand, and maybe fuse into, I guess, what you're doing now, but from a work perspective, but also from a life perspective, because I know just from our brief knowledge of one another, I follow your content online, and you put out content that really is personal, but also it provides the people that engage your content. I think it inspires empathy, but also that self-reflection for one another. So for me, when I read your post, I love your post, but also I reflect on my own journey and where I am, and it's in a positive way. In a positive way. So I just wanted to explore a little bit. So you found I guess that when you did this hackathon and you won the competition and you were able to explore different areas maybe that you didn't think that existed, maybe didn't exist, but certainly maybe areas that you hadn't considered for yourself. You mentioned that academia was very important at home within your family. So what was it like having to come up with come up with this new path for yourself, but then maybe having to embrace family and explain that I found something here, want to pursue it. What was that like?
Yeah, I remember when I first told them that, hey, I may want to explore something different. And there was just a dead silence. And everyone was looking at me and say, oh, I thought you're on your way to doing a PhD and, be a doctor or something. And I still get that question a lot. And to be very honest, I even had friends who wrote to me saying that I have wasted the resources, by going through the science journey and not being able to continue on this academia and doing science for greater good. It still gets me thinking sometimes today about maybe disappointments by some other people. But I think what I really learned is to share about the struggles that or the considerations that I've thought of. And but there are only this amount of sharing that we can do. We can explain ourselves, but at one point we will need to, try to be comfortable with not explaining anymore. Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think it's difficult particularly family and friends. I think family and friends, I think they have an idea of what success is and what a normal pathway should be for us in life. And when we're steeped in that, it's difficult to kind of think outwardly and think, actually, this kind of makes sense. And I think it's because it comes from the right place. I think it comes from love, and it comes from the idea that they want to support and embrace us. But what I think is more powerful and more important is when we have that inner knowing, that inner curiosity, and it's leading us somewhere. I think that in life, it's important that we explore those curiosities, and sometimes we can explore curiosity and it might lead us right back to where we were, or the curiosity might lead us where we need to go. And I think wherever the curiosity takes us, I think it's something that we need to explore. Otherwise it can.
And I think I'd like to share that, when we are making difficult decisions, especially when it's against the norm, there are certain tools or certain thinking frameworks that we can have in place to sort of like checkpoints for us to know whether should we pursue it now or is it just a fling, I think we can talk about that more later.
I'd love to expand on that, because you introduced this to me, checkpoints, when we spoke earlier. So it'd be lovely to how did you stumble across the idea of checkpoints for you personally?
For me personally, the first hard checkpoint was when we finished high school, we needed to decide for a university course. And after university, you have a hard checkpoint to what career you want to pursue. So I just took that idea from there, because that is a real reality check. And you have to commit yourself to that. So for myself, that concept of checkpoint then transcends into different life stages, because I think once we graduate from university, there isn't that hard checkpoint anymore, apart from women having biological checkpoint that you need to have a kid or not. But apart from that, there are no fixed deadline. But I think one observation I found is that many people just continue living their lives as they are, and they don't think about having these checkpoints anymore.
They just go straight.
Just go straight. Like whatever has happened today will happen tomorrow, unless something abrupt happened. And to me, that can be to some people it can be a blessing, but for me, I felt very wary about that type of situation, because what that means is that the growth is stagnant. And unless you're so happy with where you are right now, or there's nothing better that you can do in life, then that's where you can just really stop thinking about it.
So yeah, it's really interesting. So for you, for checkpoints, are they staple? You know, you mentioned college,
Yeah.
university, could be marriage for females, biological clock, if potentially want to have kids. So are these staple, I guess, posts that we have, or can they be, or can it be more organic? Can it be,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
do we engage them post or after, or can it be fairly elastic, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think it is very organic in a way, because like what I shared, after university, there isn't too strict of a checkpoint anymore.
Yeah.
And there are actually a lot of signals around us that are trying to tell you things that you may be uncomfortable about things, or you could be too comfortable about
Yeah.
things. Yeah, those are the organic signals that we can pick up. And I think, for example, many people would just take this signal as, just another thing to get by. For example, if I'm unhappy, I would just get a cup of coffee, and it makes me feel better, and they move on, right? But if this unhappiness has been a very, very long time, it's like the signal is trying to tell you things, but you're just getting one coffee after another, then you could be losing the really big picture here. So I think I'd like to share about this concept about the local and global optimization. Yeah, so the example that I gave just now, like getting the coffee fix, is like the local maximization of happiness, meaning in the short term, what you want is to get that boost of energy. Okay. However, in a grander scale of things, in a global scale of things, that is something that needs your attention here. What about in your life that you're not getting the fulfillment that you want? Yeah, so just drawing back a bit, the concept about this local and global optimization, we use it quite a lot in data science or machine learning field. So it can be easy to settle in because it's the fastest way to get a result, which is the coffee.
Yeah.
But if we don't look deep enough into what's the root cause of things, then you could just end up living your life like that.
Yeah. So I love the concept. I hadn't heard of that before. And so I'm just thinking from a practical perspective. So me, or people listening now, or indeed you, when we want to look at the local versus the global, how do we, I guess, from a presence perspective, when we're trying to, we become aware of local versus global, and to kind of maybe crystallize it and try and have some understanding around it. Do we journal? How do we kind of engage the local versus global?
Yeah, so what you brought up about journal is a great one. So for example, myself, I started, after work, I would try to observe, when I'm commuting back home, I would just try to observe what's going on around me. I reflect about my day, and I would journal it on Instagram or on my notebook when I can. And from there, you could actually see a pattern about what you appreciate in life and what the aspects that actually poke you, at work or relationships.
Okay, cool. And when we were communicating, you gave me some bullet points, and one of those was intuition and emotion. So I'm just seeing if I'm connecting the dots, and I might not be connecting these correctly, but when we journal and we're looking at global versus local, can we use intuition and emotion to see how what we're journaling is impacting us to kind of guide us in terms of if something makes us feel not great, does that mean that we should maybe intuition is moving us away from that? But if we get a nice warm feeling when we're journaling, maybe that's something that we can explore a little bit further. We get that adrenaline of there's something going on here. Maybe I need to explore this a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So from journaling, I think it really boils down to you and yourself at the time. And from there, like what you mentioned about attracting and detracting from certain incidents or stories that you pick up in life. And one concept that I learned about intuition is that intuition are connected experience from your past.
Yeah.
So what that meant was that maybe historically you have associated or you have learned something, whether from observing or experiencing it yourself, and that sort of strengthened your intuition across time. And the emotional part of it is sort of like the starting point of you, whether you like it or not. But intuition can probe you further and gives you that extra push, and into historically maybe you're not aware, but you have liked that thing and it has worked out better than you have expected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think like I think I'd like to just draw back a little bit on this intuition part. Like when I was rotating around the different business operations, my intuition has always told me that I love hearing stories, and I like working with people, and the intuition tells me that okay, storytelling is where you can excel at. Okay, but where else can I find my foot? Right. So this is where the intuition is sort of gives you that signal to pursue it further, but it doesn't bring you each of the step in the way. Right. And that's where we sort of need to put on the analytical hat on things to systematically explore what are our available options. Yeah, and that was how I actually chanced upon data, and I started off with data analytics and then in data science. So intuition told me that I would I love storytelling and I would be good at it. And then the next step for me to look for the global optimization is to what about storytelling can help me make the world a better place.
Yeah. Fascinating. So when you go through your process, when you're mapping things out in terms of what your next move is going to be via intuition, emotion, and local versus global, how are you doing that? Is it very much in your head? Are you writing it down? Is it a combination of everything? The reason I ask, because I'm fascinated, and I'm sure that there are people listening that have the same. They may not be using the same system, but they have maybe thoughts, but maybe they don't do anything with it because they just don't know how, because they haven't been taught. So I was just curious to understand your system.
Yeah. So something that I personally find very interesting is that intuition and emotions, while they can be very strong headliners as to trying to direct you to things, they are not very far projection in a way. And personally, it didn't give me that confidence boost that I'm doing things. I'm considering enough things. So that's why I sort of depend on a system, which I call it like the personal lifeline.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so this personal lifeline, I would just describe it a little further. How it works is that you can just take a pen and paper, if you have any. You can pause the podcast right now and try to grab something, and on this blank piece of paper with your pen, try to hold the paper on a horizontal way and try to draw two lines. So it's like an x-axis and a y-axis. Yeah. So the x-axis would look at the time. So it would go on ascending order from, it could be when you are born, or maybe some of the pivotal moments in your life that you start from that line up to where you are today. So in this x-axis are the time. Okay. And the y-axis are your emotions, or like your experience about things. Is it a high or is it a low? Yeah. So imagine this is the time, this is your high and low. And in this timeline, try to map out the important time or in your life. So for example, for myself, it would have been like graduate school, graduating after university, trying to look for my job, or even like the hackathon, like those are like the signs. And then I would try to map out, how did I feel at the time? Is it a high, mid, low, high, mid, low? Yeah. And then once you have all the dots, right, you can start to connect them together and try to look back in a very systematic way. What are the high points in your life? And the most important thought process behind is, why were you feeling high at the time?
Okay.
Yeah. So from there, at least for myself, I knew that while I enjoy science, there are areas that I didn't like. And because of storytelling, there are areas that I can explore further and trying to bridge between tech and people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like one question leading to another. But, you know, with this diagram, with the emotions and the more analytical framework in place, it gives you, you know, it takes out the very skeptical thinking that we would always have for ourselves, or even, you know, we are always our harsh judge, you know. Yeah. And with this type of system in place, it helps you rethink and help you recollect things that you didn't pick up at the time.
Yeah. I love that analogy. I love that process analogy, to kind of take a moment to kind of map things out. And talking about the title of this episode, embracing uncertainty, it almost allows us to engage the ups, the downs, the things that have happened or are happening, that in some cases might be good, or in some cases might, or in some cases might feel not so good. But with this tool, this personal lifeline, it almost gets us to think about the challenges, the difficult moments, and to kind of plot them out, work them out, see what the patterns are, what are the good patterns, what are the bad patterns. And even if there are, we might even have seen some patterns that, or some emotions that have not felt so good. Say it might be a job loss or something.
Yeah.
And that might be a low point, or might feel like a low point. But when we go through this personal lifeline, we might feel that actually there were some positive things that came from that.
Yeah.
I decided to do a course. That course led to me reaching out to somebody in a different space that I hadn't even thought about before, didn't know before, researched them. Then that led me to applying for a different job in a different field. And so it's getting us to kind of embrace things and think about things in a different way, and without, what can be very easy in life is to just go on without taking those almost like checkpoints that you described earlier.
Yeah. And I think if we just look at it emotionally, we would have remembered only the pain of losing a job. Right. And I think it's very easy for us to remember the painful things rather than the smaller gains that we had out of an incident, having something clearly mapped out. And I think that's this very special thing about visual elements, that it really reminds you about things. And when like, for example, for myself, I do dig out the lifeline map that I drew maybe 8 years ago. when I was facing that decision of choosing a career, or sorry, I think at the time it was the course that I wanted to do. And me looking at the 8 years ago me, I wouldn't have thought where I am right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sort of helps you appreciate things in a bigger scale. So th- this really resonates me with a quote that I really like from Steve Jobs. Like, it goes by, "You can only connect the dots looking backwards."
Yeah. 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 True. True.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about it as you're saying it, and how, yeah, totally. So yeah, we can plot back and think about the journey, what that journey was like. And I guess when we're looking back as well, we think about, I don't know whether this happens to you, but sometimes when I look back and I'm connecting specific dots, sometimes it takes you right back to that emotion that you might have had. And it could be 10 years ago, it might be 5 years ago, it might be a job, it might be people you were working with, it might be a difficult moment that happened, and it takes you right back to that. And then we come back to the present. So I definitely get that point. So with regards to you and embracing uncertainty, is it something that you think is a good thing, that we have the ability to embrace uncertainty, and don't think that it's doom and gloom, that there is some merit in embracing uncertainty?
Yeah, I do think that embracing uncertainty is a human nature, because if we just look far back in time, as hunters and gatherers, we can never stay at the same place for a period that's too long. You will run out of resources. There would have changes in the natural environment. So as humans, we have always been trying to adapt to environment. It's just that fast forward to where we are today, as a modern society, those forms of uncertainties have sort of changed a little bit because we don't move around as much.
Yeah.
And with like advancements in tech or other different opportunities, it makes a lot more of the uncertainties internal. And we are blessed by options, but at the same time, it can be so overwhelming that people are just stuck.
Yeah.
It's easier to not do anything, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's painful.
And I think it's also painful because it's also very natural for us to not touch the things that could potentially hurt us.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that, again, back to the lifeline, if we have practiced that muscle enough of trying things, we would then realize that even though sometimes it hurts a little, in the long run, things are going to move towards the global area that we wanted to seek.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. You mentioned something when we originally spoke, around the journey can be hazy. And I think when the journey is hazy, it kind of, I think sometimes, certainly in my experience, you feel sometimes a little bit of confusion, sometimes some resistance. And when that happens, I think sometimes we can stop exploring because of our trepidation. And I think when we stop exploring, this is just my take on the subject, we are kind of settling a little bit, and we're not taking opportunities and that curiosity that we have innately to the edges of where it can go to. And it might be that we come right back to where we are because the journey, that's where the journey is going, or the journey could take us somewhere totally different. If we look at you as an example, your skill sets are vast. So you've explored numerous skill sets to arrive where you are now. And I'm sure along the way, there must have been some hazy periods.
Yeah. So I think a lot of that hazy period comes from not having someone like me to look up to. I think in at least in the place where I was at, there hasn't been a lot of examples or that boost of confidence that
Yeah.
being exploring a new field, new skill set is something that we can do and thrive. Like for myself, I spent a really long time trying to figure out, do I really need to go down the science path, or like the more humanistic art area, which I naturally grow into? And not having a model to look up to was
Yeah.
a huge challenge for me. And that was also why, after having gone through all of these things, I personally started writing more on LinkedIn, and like being a mentor or even a coach myself, to actually help people find that story. And I really hope that with the very small things I do, I can give some light into how it's really okay that even though it's hazy, and I believe it will be until the day we die, unfortunately, or a blessing, because what that means is that you're not defining yourself and boxing yourself into what the society expect you to be.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Do you think if we go through life and we don't have this a hazy experience and we don't challenge ourselves, that we're almost, this is I don't know this to be a fact, but it's just a thought, that we're almost on autopilot. It's like the idea of not failing. When we don't fail, if somebody goes through life and they've never failed, have they really challenged themselves? Have they really gone to the edges of who they really are? Because sometimes the resistance that we have about pain and fear is so strong and overwhelming that the idea of doing something that inside, that our intuition is saying to us, I'd like to explore that, but we never let it bubble to the surface and actually engage it, because the trauma of the experience of failing, public humiliation, all these things are so overwhelming that we revert back to type and we go along in a middle lane, and we never embrace either those lows or the extreme highs of doing something that really we feel that is in our DNA.
Yeah, personally, I feel that whether to explore that hazy process or follow the intuition, and there are people who are very happily living that same lifestyle for over 20 years, and I've actually met someone who is like that, where she remains over 20 years an associate in the same company, and yet when I speak to her, she takes huge pride at the work that she does, even though to the rest it doesn't sound something fancy, it's not changing the world, but to her it was good enough. It pays her bills, it gives her the bandwidth, the time to do the things she wants, and I think we're totally fine with that. So I think it really boils down to whether what person do you envision to become. It's fine to stay where you are, but if you have questions, why not try to find the answers for it?
I totally get that. And I think sometimes we can be incredibly lucky or perceptive in that we find our calling early on, and that's great. But it's kind of, and I guess I can only speak from my own place, because I don't know what's going on in everybody's mind. But if there was something that we've always wanted to explore, but we've just never had the courage to engage it, then that's kind of what I'm more speaking to, because it might be that, because the journey of life can be so amazing, and that journey to get to that point can be challenging, clearly. So it's like embracing uncertainty and difficult journey. But if we embrace, somebody mentioned to me recently that he loves the word adventure, because if we watch a movie, like at Christmas time, we watch movies and bits and pieces, and sometimes those adventures are a movie and they're ups and down, but they're active, they're engaging, there's something going on, and adventure, it sounds exciting. And that's the way that our journey could be in a career, family and friendships and everything like that. So it's our life is an adventure, and maybe within that there will be uncertainty, but there will also be some unique experiences along the way.
I love that.
Okay. So we're getting towards the end now. So what I'd like to do is ask for people that may want to contact you or find you, where's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn would be a very nice place. Over there, you can follow me through my writings,
Okay.
or even just, send a chat and we can talk more there.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, and again, I love your posts. Please do carry on with them, because sometimes they crop into my feed at just the right time, and I get to kind of muse and think about them, and because they're thought-provoking as well. What I love about them, they're wonderful and they're thought-provoking. And also sometimes you share material from other people that have said something again which is thought-provoking, and it does definitely make you think and make you put everything in a better light. So definitely keep the posting activity
Thank you.
going.
Thank you, Paul.
And so the last question is the reoccurring question. So if you can invite 3 inspirational people for dinner, who might you invite?
The first person would be my grandma. So
Okay.
she passed on about 10 years ago. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But and based on what I can remember with her is that she doesn't speak a lot. But how she was like a figure to me and my family is that even though she doesn't speak much, she always has this steady, calming presence, and always be doing good and kind to others. So, I think this is an especially powerful source of strength when things are very hazy. And by channeling that kindness, it helps us, or at least me, it keeps me grounded to what would my grandma do when she's faced with such challenges. And that's the practice that my mom has been doing. And from my mom, I got that too. So I think it's a kindness that we are trying to channel. And when people are kind to each other, I think we'll be in a better place. Yeah. The second person, I think it will be my younger me.
Okay.
Maybe at the time I wouldn't consider myself as inspirational, but now looking back, I would really think that, hey, you've been very brave. Hui Wen, you've been very brave.
I love this.
Yeah, you've been very brave. And although there were a lot of like questions, not just from people, but also the questions I had for myself, I prevailed. And I think even until today, I kept on with that spirit. So thank you to the younger Hui Wen for being able to take steps forward, even though there were no clear path ahead. And I hope that so the third person would be the future Hui Wen, hopefully. I'm not sure if you'll be inspirational by then still, but I think you would. I hope you would.
Absolutely.
And try to keep the belief that you have, that and keep on channeling the kindness that your grandma has taught you. And you will never know how people can be a better person because of you.
Was that 2 or 3?
Sorry,
It was the third.
That's the third. Yeah.
Can you say the third one again? I missed that.
Yeah, so the third would be my future
Okay,
self.
your future. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that. I love all that the journey of you. It's almost the dots, your past, your current, and your future. I love them all sitting. I love that analogy. You're all sitting down together, having a conversation about the journey, what it was like.
And all of them stem from learning from someone that I really love. And to see that impact, from my grandma up to who I am today, I think a lot of the learnings are very small in life. It's just that we need to listen to more of that little voice.
Yeah, I think that's important. Listen to those little voices with those little messages. And as we're concluding, for people listening that have loved and really been infused and they've got this curiosity going on, would you have a final message for them around the idea of embracing uncertainty? Would you say that it's okay and they shouldn't run away from it? It's okay to embrace uncertainty?
Yeah. The final words is that it's okay to really choose to act or not onto things. Yeah. But deep down, I think you would have an answer to go for it or not.
Okay, lovely. Okay. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this discussion. It's a lovely way to kick off my day and to give me really lots of curious thoughts and positive thoughts about how I can implement a lot of what you've said. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. I love the conversation as well.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode of My Perfect Failure. We're always looking to grow the show, so please do share this episode far and wide, particularly if you know people that would benefit from really embracing uncertainty, because you know that it will take them where they want to go. So please do share this episode far and wide, and your feedback is most welcome. We're always keen to hear about the things you like and equally the things you don't like. You can find me at paul@myperfectfailure.com, or you can find me via the contact page. So until the next time, take care for now. Bye.
Thanks for listening to My Perfect Failure podcast. Be sure to visit www.myperfectfailure.com to join the conversation. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google Play. Look out for our next episode.